With so much content out there, how do you filter through all the noise and cut straight to the value? What has become very apparent is that the best way to learn is to surround yourself with those you aspire to be. But you can't just watch what they do. At some point you have to turn it into an action. Knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. On this podcast, you will go on a journey as we speak to people who are making a difference in their industries, and people who, if you listen to closely and take action, can turn you into who you want to be. My name is Mark LaChance, and this is the Building a Successful Career podcast. Hi everyone, welcome to the Mark LaChance Building a Successful Career podcast. As you know, I've got two parts to this. One where I document my journey, where my failures are happening and building my way to success. And the other part is I bring on people that I can learn from. And as you're listening to me learn, you're also learning as well. And you don't even realize it's happening. And where there's a lot of gems which are going to be dropped here. And I've got a special guest with me today. And I think it's best that he introduces himself because no one speaks more highly of themselves than they do themselves. So, and I don't want to butcher his surname. So I'm going to start with his first name because it's the same as mine. So Mark, how are you?
I'm very good, Mark. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
So it's interesting. I think this podcast will probably be aired in Europe, right? So in Europe, you pronounce my last name LaChance, but in Florida, it's LaChance. So anyway,
Okay.
my name is Mark LaChance. I'm currently the CEO and CFO of a company called Maxi Media. So we specialize in driving traffic, tremendous amount of traffic on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. And, we've grown incredibly well over the last 4 to 5 years, which I'm sure we'll speak about. I also have experience in the payment space and the sports industry and many other industries as well. So that's who I am, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thanks for being on the show. And what we want to look and talk about today is your book, which is The Lucky Formula.
Yes, sir.
And I'm very interested to go into this because
Mark,
what I liked as well
read
was
the Lucky Formula. You have to.
You have to, exactly. And we're going to go into this. We're not going to reveal everything, but I think it's great to touch on some points. And I think you've got a really good story to tell. But there's a question I like to start with at the beginning. And I like to kind of put my guests on the spot a little bit. Yeah, dust those glasses off. Yeah. There's two words, imposter syndrome. What does that mean to you?
Well, I used to have it actually. Imposter syndrome is you feel like you don't warrant your success, or you're not worthy of your success, right? So I think it probably goes back about 10 years ago when I was running a company. I was running a company called EVO Canada, which we had about 215 employees. So we grew it from myself to over 215 employees in about a year and a half.
Wow.
But I was sitting there at the end of the year and a half, sitting in front of my desk saying, oh my God, I don't know how to run this thing. I am an imposter. I faked it all the way up. So, but how do you fix that imposter syndrome? Well, that's personal development, that's coaching, that's getting a mentor, that's a lot of different ways to fix that. So I hope that answered your question on imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it does. And for me, it's, I think it helps to stop being complacent, because when you doubt yourself that much and you worry that much, if you can overcome that challenge of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, and you go, hey, I've got to work here. I've got to put the hours in. I've got to put the shift in. There's a guy behind me that thinks he's going to take my job. There's a guy behind me that could take my job. But if I do this step, I can actually overcome this inferior complex that I have and actually make it work in a positive way for me.
If I can comment on that, I would actually shift the thinking around and say there's a guy behind me that I want to move up the chart, or move on to running my own operation, my own business. So anyway, that's kind of a comment.
Yeah, no, that's cool. But you jumped off a little bit there. Just repeat that again, because it just jumped a little bit. Because I think that was a good point. Yeah, you just jumped a little bit. So just repeat that again.
Sure. I was going to say, I said that if I can comment on your last statement being, you actually want that person to take your job so you can move up the ranks, or you can move on to building your own division, organization, or even business.
That's interesting. That's why I love raising that point about imposter syndrome, because I think it's got a nasty name to it, but I think if it can be turned around and looked at in a different way, and everything's about perspective, how you look at things in life, and that's a really good point as well.
Absolutely.
So within your book, and one of the parts that you note about the beginning is the reason why you don't want to be on that roof again. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that, please?
I guess you did read the book, Mark. There you go.
There you go.
Well, look, I mean, everybody needs a why, right? Everybody, in my opinion, if you want to be successful, you need a major why.
Okay.
When I was in high school and university, to pay for my father, because at that time it was in the late 80s. If you don't remember, Mark, you're way too young, but 87, the stock market crashed. My father was in a real estate deal, and he went upside down on the deal. So I had to literally work my way through high school, which I went to a private school, and in college or university. So I had to fund most of it. So I had to work for my father, who was in construction, and that meant being on that roof. And that meant waking up every morning and looking out that window and seeing that red, blazing hot sun that you see in Dubai, peek up over the mountains or over the hillside. And you knew it was going to be a brutal day, because this is black rubber roof. Yeah. And we're, laying these roofs every single day. And this was, I was living in Connecticut at the time, so summers could get, up into the high 90s, low hundreds, but humid as well. Brutal. So it just zaps you of everything. It zaps you of your will to even live, I'll say. So yeah. My why is to never, ever be on that roof. That's my major why. So that's a good point.
And how do you go about, because some people say, what is your why? How would you go about advising people to identify their why?
Well, you have to look at something that gives you a visceral reaction, or a visceral, just a hatred almost, I say. So I remember the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I don't know if you read that, but his pivotal moment in his life, it is when he was working for a pesticide company, and I think he moved a ceiling tile, and literally, thousands of cockroaches just fell on top of him. So that that became his critical pivotal moment, that I never want to do this again. So it's your why is something that gives you that visceral, I'm going to say, hatred, and drives you to get out of that situation.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because it's amazing what people think is their why, and it ends up being something else as well. And and it's so interesting, because you don't want those cockroaches falling on you ever again, or you don't want that blazing sun on you again. And then when you really get to that point where you don't feel you can go any further, you start thinking of that, and it's amazing what energy you get again, as long as it's positive. Because some people can kind of, I don't know, take it as a it can go a different way sometimes, because they can use it as their why, but it can actually be in a negative effect. But you see that as that's your roof. You wake up and you don't want to be on that roof again, and that's what's going to push you to succeed in life.
Well, for me, it's even to a point where I don't even want to pick up a hammer and put a picture on the wall, even if my wife asks me to do it. So I get that visceral reaction. No, I'm going to go in my office and get on the computer. That's what I'm going to do.
And some people see that as the hardest thing as well. Like it's amazing. Some people see the construction work as something they put in each day. They get a paycheck, they get home, they close the door at night, they've got no headache, they put their head down, that's it, they get up again. But it's kind of a monotonous type thing that keeps on going on and on and on. And they don't realize actually there is more, but some people are just happy with that. They collect a paycheck and they just continue on.
Mark, you cut off for a second, but anyway, no, I agree with you. That was for me. It became monotonous.
Yeah.
And it became, I was in my head all the time thinking of what, the better things I can do with my life. But look, everybody's different, right? Yeah. Everybody has, different things drive different people. But for me, it's doing things that are exciting, that are fun, that are growth oriented. So, being on a roof and doing the monotonous thing every single day was not growth oriented. So I couldn't take it anymore. But at least it served its purpose, right?
Exactly. So I don't know if I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but there's some points I wrote down, and I just want to kind of get your view on it and your opinion. So in 2016, you sold a company.
That's
You
great.
sold one of your companies, and then you launched another company not long after that in a different industry. But what happened with that company from 2016? Did it go on to do more than what you were currently doing?
The company that I sold, you're asking?
In 2016, yeah.
Yeah, so I sold a company, the same one I referred to earlier, called EVO Canada, which is a payments company. So think PayPal, think Stripe, companies like that, but more focused on brick and mortar. So anytime you walk into a restaurant or you walk into a gym or wherever you take out your credit card, so we had built a pretty substantial portfolio of clients that accept credit cards. And so 2016, I felt, it was a great time to exit. And we did. I sold it back to the guys that I started the business with.
Okay.
We had built it from zero to basically a $30 million plus valuation. So at that time, that was a good number. It was a good exit. So I was happy with that, and allowed me to go on and build the next company, which I'm currently the CEO of, which is Maxi Media.
Yeah.
And again, like I said in the beginning, we're driving traffic on various social platforms, and that's exciting. We have an opportunity to build a even bigger company, in which the valuation is multiples of that number that I just shared with you. So we're happy about that.
Great. Now, it's interesting because I was listening to a podcast the other month, and there was the guy being interviewed was the founder of a company called moonpig.com, which is bespoke e-cards online. So people can go on, they put their image on there, they put their text on there, that gets sent out online. And he launched that, and he got to a certain amount, and he ended up selling the company. And it ended up, I think, 3 or 4xing on the amount that he actually sold it for. And the guy that was interviewing him, he said, like, how do you feel about that? This company is like 3 or 4x on what you sold it for. He said, I took it to as far as I could have got it. The person that actually ran with it after that was in a much better position to take it to that level. So I knew what I could do, and it hasn't stopped him. He's an investor. He goes with different things. He was on the UK version of Shark Tank as well. And it's fascinating to me, because you get to that level and you're like, hey, this was my goal. And then you sell it. And then there's that sort of, not buyer's remorse, but seller's remorse, I guess, as well.
Well, so if I can comment on that, because of the capital structure, I was a minority shareholder. I could only bring it to a certain level. I believe my capabilities I could have brought it to multiples of the number that I brought it to, but because of the situation that it's a Canadian company, my partners ultimately took their company public. So it was they bought a credit card processing company in Mexico, in Europe, in Spain. Actually, it was the second one or the third one, and they had us. So our target was Canada. We sort of reached our peak and reached our target. So that was the biggest I could actually grow it in the capital structure that I was in. So could I have grown it far greater than what I did? Yeah, absolutely. But it just wasn't the right time, or the right, I guess, let's call it capital structure. So I could have taken it to the next level. I could have probably taken it to, my next target is building $1 billion business, which I think I can do. So let's see. Let's see, Mark.
$1 billion.
And I'm bald too, so it's perfect.
Perfect. Just need the cat.
That's it.
One thing that I really like you mentioned here, and I think it's something which people miss a lot out on, is this reoccurring revenue, and something that you saw as something which was the payment side of it, is so important within a business. If you just want to not sit back and let the money come in, but it's a big part of it. Once you put that in place, the money will start to come to you, or the payments will start to come to you. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, well, because I was in the sports, this is going back to about 1998. I was in before maybe you were born, Mark. I don't know when you were born, but anyway.
I'm 85, I am.
There you go.
Yeah.
Actually, you look younger than anyway. Okay. So yeah. So basically in 1998, I was in the sports business. So I had at the time I had about 7 guys in the National Hockey League, which is the biggest professional hockey league in the world. And then I had another 35 athletes in the minor leagues. So I was building a pretty substantial business, but then I lost 2 clients. I lost 2 key clients, and that represented about 30% of my revenue. And at the same time, I'd met a guy that was in the payments business, and he had about 2,000 clients. The guy was making at the time, it was close to $30,000 a month, and 20 of it was recurring.
Okay.
Right. And at that time in 1998, the guy's making close to $400,000, a substantial amount of money. But I saw the fact that he had recurring revenue, and the fact that he had 2,000 clients versus I had, my 35 plus 7, so 42 clients. And if I lost 2 or 3 of them, it was a significant hit. But if he lost 2 or 3 or even 10 of his clients, it didn't hit him at all financially. So I quickly learned from that gentleman, and I learned from other friends that had real estate that, recurring revenue is the way to go. It's passive income. It's called mailbox money, and you can, not sit back, but it allows you to take bigger risks. So from that point on, I built, several credit card portfolios that are paying monthly. I built a nutrition business that's paying monthly. So I can go out there and take risks and do things that I normally wouldn't be able to do, because I have that recurring revenue I can fall back on. So I think recurring revenue is key, absolutely key. And, Mark, I think you're in that business. You're in the recurring revenue business, and it allows you to absolutely take those risks.
And when an investor looks at your business, that's what they want to see. They want to see that recurring revenue, don't they? Like, that's a big part for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'll get a higher multiple if you've got, let's say, predictable growth or predictable revenue that you can, you predict out, say 24, 36 months, you'll definitely get a higher multiple. So when you're looking at starting a business, I would certainly look at recurring revenue, sort of the SaaS model, if you're in tech or if you're in software.
Yeah, I recently started in a position with HR software solutions, and it's multiple year deals, and it takes a while to actually get through the door and build the relationships and get people to sign up, because they're either Oracle or SAP, and we complement that system. But you've got IT who are pro Oracle or SAP, and God forbid there should be something that plugs into that. So those are the challenges I'm facing with that at the moment. But once we sign that deal up, it's 3 to 5 years with implementation and then maintenance, and that's the reoccurring revenue, and that's what we're looking to book. We're not looking for one-term payments. It's that reoccurring that comes in, and that's what makes my director the most happy.
Yeah, and think about how sticky that is, because you have the implementation phase, and once your software is in, it's very sticky. Like for now, right now, we use Monday, we use Slack, we use other software platforms. It'll be very difficult for us to move out of those 2 platforms to do something, to use something else, and we're paying a tremendous amount of money on a monthly basis. So yeah, I get it, man. It's, recurring revenue is great. Software is an amazing business to be in. Maybe one day I'll get into that business. You'll get me in there, Mark, maybe.
Yeah. You never know. This could be the start of a good relationship. So talk to me about this Maxi Media. I'm really interested in this because I heard you say about TikTok. I'm wondering if you've done any TikTok dances that you've been in or not.
Yeah, well, we have we're the number one spender on the platform in Canada, and that includes all the banks and all the big software companies and social media companies. But I have never once done a TikTok video, so you're not going to get one out of me. But we saw an opportunity. It was about 2.5 years ago now. The company was beta testing their ad platform. And, we were heavy into Facebook, and Facebook, if you do any media buying, Facebook is not a joy to work with. So we said, look, let's give TikTok a shot. And from there, we learned that, the ad platform is a little different in that, you've got what's called ad fatigue. So if you do an ad on Facebook, it could last 2, 3, 4 weeks. But on TikTok, it's gone. The ad is gone off the platform within 48 hours. It's fatigued. It doesn't work any longer. So we had to build out a creator network so that we literally have media buyers on one side and creators on the other side. So the creators only create videos. Media buyers take those videos and put them on the platform and try to generate sales and traffic out of that. So it took us a heck of a long time to figure that out, and a lot of money. But once you do, again, there's another sticky situation, right? So we built out a very valuable network of creators, not influencers, but actual creators who create videos for us. on a daily basis between, let's say, 5 and 10 videos per day per creator. And, we built a pretty awesome organization out of that. So it's been fun.
No, those are some good points there, Mark. Let's go back. Okay, so the name of the book is The Lucky Formula. Okay, and you've mentioned, I don't know if I'm revealing too much here, but you've mentioned what the formula is, and it's internal. Or please, I don't want to actually ruin it. So go through what this formula is, and I'll raise my question after, because I don't want to spoil what the formula is.
Okay, so first, the book is called The Lucky Formula, which is right here. So lucky, my last name being LaChance or LaChance actually means luck in French. So I think that makes me highly qualified to write a book about luck, because Definitely. My last name means it. So anyway, the formula, the lucky formula, the premise of the book is that luck is not a fluke, it's an actual formula. And, you could stack the odds in your favor and cash in on success by using the formula itself, which is internal mastery. And I'll explain this in a second. Yeah. Internal mastery plus external mastery plus action equals luck. And what does that mean? That means there's about 10 points of mastery internally. So that it's, mastering, I'm not going to give them all, but I'll give a few. So mastering your internal narrative. So Mark, when you wake up in the morning, what do you say to yourself? What's your narrative? Are you talking to yourself like you're a loser, or are you telling yourself you're great, you're a fearless leader, you're awesome, you're amazing, you're lucky, right? So that's one thing to master. In the book I talk about how to actually master that. And then, are you consistently, along with narrative, are you consistently negative or positive? And then there's tips and tricks on how to get the positive mindset, because I'm going to tell you this right now, that people are far more attracted to a positive mindset than a negative mindset. Mm. And, that kind of takes care of your internal mastery. And there's one key point. So if you did read the book, you'll know that my secret weapon for me has been meditation, which, that's helped me a tremendous amount, because you mentioned imposter syndrome. Mm. Like, I used to wake up in the middle of the night, and, back when I started the payments company in 2009, and, everybody knows that most companies take X amount of months or even years to break even. And in the payment space, it's anywhere between 20 and 25 months to break even. So, you could say in month 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I couldn't sleep at night. We still weren't cash flow positive, blah, blah, blah. And I would have all these crazy stories in my head that, the board is going to fire me or blah, blah, blah. But, the company was going like this. So what meditation helped me to do is sort of, tame those voices, tame that narrative, tame the crazy thought processes, and help me focus on what was important, which is building the company and doing the right things. So meditation is an internal, it's something internally in your body and your mind that you have to master. And that was one of them. So external factors are things like, nutrition and hydration and working out. And here's a key is who you hang around with. So Mark, I think one of the reasons you do these podcasts is to get on calls and learn from people that are, might think at a different level than you, might be in a different economic, situation than you, although you're in Dubai, so you're probably doing pretty well. But anyway, the point is, your circle of influence is a key external factor. So Mark, if you're hanging around with, Jim Rohn famously said, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, or you're the aggregate. So let's say the 5 people you hang around with talk about poverty, talk about woe is me, talk about, what do you think you're going to think like? Or on the other side, if you hang around with 5 people that think big and have big goals and think massive, how are you going to think? If you go to the gym with, 5 people that are overweight, are you going to work hard? Or conversely, if you go to the gym with 5 people that are ripped and fired up and, looking to get to the next level physically, how are you going to think? So anyway, the book teaches you about, those types of externalities. And then the last part of the equation, so the I plus E plus A, which is action. I have a bookcase right there full of probably 1,000 books. And one of them I'm looking at right now is called Extreme Ownership. And that teaches you about leadership. So are you taking the action to do personal development? And are you putting what you learn in the book are you putting that into play? Like, so for example, one of the books I've read in the last 4 years is called Blitzscaling, and I talk about that in my book. And that's by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn. And he teaches you specifically how to grow, how to blow up your company in a good way, blow it up, that way, not blow it up negatively. So that's called Blitzscaling. So I employed Blitzscaling over the last, I've done that probably 3 times in my career. We did it again. I finally knew the official term, because the first time I did it was back in 2001, when we took a company from 3 to 240 people. And then finally I did it again back in 2020, actually right before Armageddon hit. And but we still grew it. We grew it from 6 people to we're just about 300 right now. So we blitzscale the company pretty quickly.
That's great. That's great. I think going back to your point on meditation, which is very, very important, I think one mistake that people make is that they try to clear their mind of all their thoughts. And that's impossible. It's impossible not to think. It's impossible not to think. And I think one of the things which I try to do is I just try to catch what I'm saying. And if I can be aware of that, and I can just kind of put it to the side or acknowledge what I'm saying, why am I feeling like that? What is that? Like, I think that's where people get confused with this meditation. Like, you're just meant to sit there humming away. But it's taking those moments just to be self-aware and be within yourself, really.
That's correct. And people think you can have sort of a still mind, but it's almost impossible. The yogis call it monkey mind. Your mind's constantly jumping all over the place. But if you can take that thought, like you just said, take that thought, put it aside, focus on your breath and your breathing. And one sort of tip that I do is I put myself inside of my brain, focus on the breath, and almost fall asleep. And it's just, I kind of feel like I'm falling asleep, and that kills that voice, or kills the monkey brain for me. So it works.
Yeah, it's amazing what goes on in our heads. I'm really intrigued by this book, actually, The Lucky Formula. And it's something which I've been looking over and seeing the type of tips and ways that people can kind of get over things. But on your website, you've got something here about the Lucky Formula quiz.
Yeah, that was going to be my ending. I was going to give your listeners a free gift.
Oh, my apologies. Well, I'm intrigued by this, so it's better that I raised it, I think, because then the audience will know something that's really important to me. But tell me about this. Tell me about this quiz.
So the quiz is it's 20 question quiz, and it spits out a number. So your lucky score on a scale of 0 to 100. And it basically measures your ability to catch luck or even be successful. So it'll ask you questions based on the lucky formula itself. And again, it's 20 questions, and you'll get at the end a score, and then you'll get tips and tricks on how to increase your luck if your scores might be a little bit lower. So I think it's a pretty cool, useful tool to gauge where you're at.
Nice. Well, we'll remind that again at the end. But one of the points you raised here as well is in regards to attraction leadership. And you touched on this before, but I'd like to speak about it a little bit more, because how to use positivity to create great teams. And there's a quote I go to whenever I hear about positivity, and it's from one of my most inspirational people who I just love, who's a very old, unfortunately he's passed away now, a motivational speaker called Zig Ziglar. And he mentions, and his point is, positivity won't get you everywhere, but positivity won't get you everywhere, but it will get you more places than being negative will. And I just think that's such a great way. Like, it's better to think positive than to think negative. But when you talk about attraction of leadership, I think sometimes people, they have this idea of be positive, be positive, be positive. But what I like to talk about is this sort of optimistic mentality. So you're not stupid in a way that you think everything's going to work out perfectly, but at least you might potentially see light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's what people are really attracted to. So I'd love to hear your point on that, and the point you raised about attraction leadership.
Well, look, often do leadership courses. So every week we do a leadership call every Thursday at 11 a.m., 11:30. We do a leadership call with the full team, and we talk about different points in leadership. And it's most of the managers in the company. Actually, it's grown to about 60 people. So not all of them are managers, but they all want to be managers, right? So anyway, a lot of the points on the call is one of my courses, I talk about the aspects of being a leader. So there are about 15 points or 15 characteristics. And the number one question I ask is vision. So what is your ability to cast vision? And I think to me, that's the number one attribute or characteristic that makes a great leader. I mean, if you go back, you look at probably the best visionary ever in the history of business might be Steve Jobs, right? He had that, I forget what they called it, but he had that ability to what was the term? He had the ability anyway to cast a vision where everybody would be almost mesmerized by that vision, and it would happen. So there's a key to ability. So you have to understand the ability to give vision, but you also have to come through, right? So you can get these lofty, crazy goals, but you need to come through with them. But the point is, if you can develop that ability to cast vision, to have people get behind you on your targets and your goals, that's what I call attraction leadership. People want to be with others, or people want to follow leaders that cast a big vision, cast a big goal, and actually achieve those goals, because you always want to be with winners. And I'm going to tell you this, that I don't believe, I mean, if you look at politics anywhere, and especially in the United States, that's division, that's negative. That's who really wants to follow, a politician that tears down the other side. I mean, it's just, anyway, the point is, I believe to grow a successful business like we have grown right now, it's all about positivity. It's all about positive vision. It's all about lofty goals and doing it as a team versus tearing people down. I mean, and that's about, I talk about it in the book about language. How do you speak to people? What's the message you're giving people? Are you ripping them down, or are you building them up? And I'm going to tell you, you get more out of people you build up than you tear down. In the old days, when, years ago when I was running a call center, I kind of employed the other tactic, which was, I would call it negative reinforcement. And I learned pretty quickly that people don't respond to negative reinforcement. They respond much, much better to positive reinforcement. And they want to go to war for you rather than, checking in or showing up at 9 and leaving right at 5. But if you develop and you build the right culture wrapped around positivity and can-do attitude, your people are going to come in at 8:30 and leave at 6:30 versus 9 to 5. So I hope that answered your question, but that's kind of a roundabout way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those people that come in at 9 and leave at 5, they're the ones that complain the most that they don't get anything from the company.
And they're those are the ones that you fire right away. That's for sure, Mark.
Yeah. Well, the fact they turn up at 9 o'clock is one thing, and people that turn up late, I mean, it drives me crazy. And especially when they don't even message to say they're going to be late as well, because I need to report upwards, so when I've got my director saying to me, well, where's this person? And I don't know. And it's not that you need to be, just let's get the day started right. It's a great way.
Here's a tip for you. Why don't you get rid of those people and don't give yourself the anxiety?
I did last week. I got rid of them. Yeah.
Good work.
I ripped that band. I was just burning up inside. And then I just thought, no, this is just ridiculous. And we had to let him go, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately. He had potential, but what I'm noticing now, and I know I sound old by saying this, but these millennials these days, it's and I mentioned this actually literally just before this, we jumped on this call, but you want to give them room, and you give them the room, and then they say they weren't told what to do when they make a mistake. So it's like, well, nobody told.
Look, here's the point. People say that, and I look back, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It was the same conversation. It was the same. You can look, our staff is about 70% millennial, 70% Gen Z.
Okay.
And look, there are good ones and there are bad ones. Just like in my, what am I? I'm not a boomer, but I
Yeah.
but anyway, it's the same thing with my generation. There are some good ones and some bad ones. So the point is, you have to surround yourself with the good ones and get rid of the bad ones. Period. So again, we have 70% Gen Z. We have amazing people, and the non-amazing ones go. That's it, or we let them go. So there are ways around this, this sort of stereotype that they're lazy, which I don't necessarily believe they are.
Yeah, so everything you said there is 100% right, and they work a different way, and that's what I want to learn from them as well, but there has to be giving something back to us as well, because I know that there's a lot I can learn from them to go by.
Sure. I mean, look, in tech, I mean, I've never, like I explained earlier, I've never done a TikTok video, but these kids are masters. I mean, they're incredible, right? So you have to leverage their skill sets. You have to leverage their, the incredible things that they can bring to the table. And, well, I will say that focus might not be one of them, but you can teach them how to focus over time.
I need to meditate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I find that trouble now, though, to be fair. And what I try to do now is I do this 25 minutes on, 5-minute break. And I just try to put everything to the side and just focus on that thing that I'm task at hand. And it started with 5 minutes, then 10 minutes. And because we're so distracted by social media, and I know.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you this thing, you got to take all notifications off. My ringer's always off. I have no pop-ups on my screen right here. So I don't allow it. I mean, because, I guess I think the stat is it takes 25 minutes to get into serious flow. And then it takes one little ding to get you out of it. So I do a similar thing to you, is I turn off all notifications. I don't let anything bother me, and I'm zeroed in on what I'm doing. And here's another tip is this is crazy, but I also get my assistant on the phone, and I have her, it's like I'm sitting there with her on the call, so it keeps me focused. So that's another kind of hack I use.
I guess accountability, that is, then, I guess, because is it because somebody's watching you and you feel like you need to get on with it, or?
It could be. If you look at the quantum world, right? So, neurons, or not neurons, the atoms, actually positive and negative charge, they act differently when they're being observed. So when I'm being observed by my assistant, we're getting things done so quick. Maybe that's a pretty good hack, stealing from the quantum world.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because before starting this new job at the beginning of the year, I built an online training program, a sales training program. And I do not shy away from working hard. I've got no problem with putting the hours in. But when it was just me, my business, and I'd get on the computer and I'd try to do something, apart from needing to pay bills, which is obviously a big part of everyone's life, I was just like, there's nothing for me to kind of challenge myself that I've got to do this for something or someone, or put this report in on time. And what it just got me to talk about, and this is why really one of the main parts of this podcast, is that this entrepreneur side of it, people, and it's a big buzzword at the moment, everyone should be an entrepreneur, but the truth is they shouldn't. And if you are going to work for a company, there's nothing wrong with being a number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And having actual real success and building that career. And that's the online training I've built, which is, number one, going from telesales to offering a consultative approach, because everything's being automated now. So the days of calling people, hey, do you want to buy something, is completely gone. They go through that whole email journey and the TikTok journey and everything. But once they offer that consultative approach, the robot is not taking their job anymore. And then they can go to the next step, which is having people champion them and support them and want them to succeed within the workplace. And I have no problem now, because I'm very self-aware that I'm happy to do that. And the company I'm in now, they want me to kind of take everything over in the next 3 years. They have that journey for me. We sell some of the biggest products in the world. I'm happy with that. And I think as a business owner, what's the point in having everyone as an entrepreneur in the company? You need those people within the business.
Well, everybody is not an entrepreneur, that's for sure. I mean, you look at our chief operating officer. So he was started with us at 25. Now he's 30, and he's turned into a rock star. But he's not ready yet, and he's said it. and he's not ready yet to take his own to take on his own operation, because now as an entrepreneur, you need to understand almost everything. And that's kind of a double-edged sword, but you need to understand finance, you need to understand how to read financial statements, you need to understand accounting, you need to understand sales, marketing, blah, blah, go down the list. But if you're missing any one of those, it'll be a tough haul if you don't have a big budget. So look, I'm not a media buyer, I'm not a creator, but we're able to hire those types of people. So if you surround yourself with people that know how to do it, then you're great. But if you want to be an entrepreneur and start from zero, you kind of have to have overall skill sets, especially if your budget is not anywhere near. That gives you that ability to hire those people that can cover your weaknesses, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that definitely not everybody's an entrepreneur, and if you are an entrepreneur, you need to have sort of an overall understanding of each topic. And if you don't, you better have a budget to bring in the people that understand those topics better than you. It's kind of the message.
Yeah, and one thing which I kind of see with these people that start businesses, it's either they go by themselves and they realize they can't do it by themselves, or they have, 3 seems to be the magic number when it comes to starting a business. Like there's the one person and the 2 people, like it's 3 in total. What do you think? I know it can vary from different companies, different situations, but have you been better with having a partner or going by yourself or having people with you?
Well, it depends again where you are financially, right? So Dan Sullivan, who's the head of Strategic Coach, he'll tell you that it takes 3 people. It takes somebody to come up with the idea, somebody to make it real, and then somebody to make it recur. So it's 3 different people, right?
Okay.
So I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. But today, look, I wouldn't need to bring on a 50-50 partner. I mean, I would need to bring on qualified, hungry executives that understand each role, right? So somebody in tech, or somebody in media buying, somebody in accounting or finance. So, but when you're starting out and you don't have the budget to hire those people, then you have to bring out partners. You have no choice, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I've done that my whole career. So starting out and getting a equity partner that understands tech, and somebody that understands media, and somebody that understands. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I think you hit it on the head. 3 seems to be the right number, right?
Yeah. 3 of my best friends actually started a business, I'd say 8 years ago. And one of them was working for a bank in the UK, and he was being very successful, but he was like, I don't want to be stuck behind a desk anymore. I want more from my life. And he decides I'm going to move to Thailand. So on his way to Thailand, he stops in Dubai, where one of my good friends was, one of my best friends. And he was being quite successful, and he was doing different things with social media and real estate and all these. And he ended up picking him up along the way. He sold him this idea of, we're going to go to Thailand and we're going to just, be free of all of the red tape and everything there is in the world. They had no idea what they wanted to do. No idea. And they came across this thing, and they ended up launching a very successful property portal with different verticals. Now they've taken their blueprint and applied it to different things. But my friend he picked up along the way, they both sold it to each other. They were great at what they did. Okay. And when they got to Thailand, my friend had done 10 different things. But when my other friend said, oh, can you deal with this? He could only take it so far. There's only so far he could take it. And in the end, he just said, like, what are you good at? What are you actually good at? He said, you got a little bit in everywhere, but you don't know how to deliver all the way. And it was just so funny because they like missold each other. And I mean, thank God that they're good now and they're best friends and everything's great. But at that time, it's like this realization of, I don't know my stuff. And I've just been blagging it, really.
Yeah, but it's often when you're young, you think, like when I was a kid, I thought I was smarter than, it called the entrepreneur's dilemma. You think you can do everything. You think you're smarter than the next guy, but that's the problem, right? That's why some organizations, they fail, because the leader believes they have to be the smartest person in the room. It's ego. It's big ego.
Yeah.
So as a leader, if you want to grow an organization, like, do you think I'm the best media buyer in my company? No, I don't know anything about media buying. I don't know anything about creating a TikTok video, but I know how to put the people in place that know how to do it. So you better put your ego aside and, let the people that are smarter than you in that domain do it. It's that simple. It's actually that simple. Set your ego aside and let smarter people take over, period.
But something that was funny as well, because I said to him, why do you want to start your own company? What is the reason for that? He said, I want to make my own decisions. I want to be able to make my own decisions. So there's 3 of them. He has an opinion. The other 2 have an opinion. They say yes to this thing, 2 of them, and he says no. He's lost. So he can't even make his own decision. He learned that pretty early on as well. I'm sure you can think of a few examples of that in your time where you thought, hey, I can control this. And then there's people which are like, there's a deciding factor, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, my man, I've got to get rolling because I'm late for a call right now, but okay. I did want to leave you, that gift for everybody. I wanted to, the actual quiz. So you can find the lucky quiz at theluckyformula.com/quiz. Again, theluckyformula.com/quiz. And it's going to give you your lucky score and show you how successful and lucky you can be and give you tips and tricks on how to get luckier or more successful. So hopefully, Mark, you took the quiz already.
I'll be taking it after this and I'll be reporting back to you.
Make sure you email me back your score. I'd love to.
I will do. Mark, thank you so much for your time. I know that you're a busy man, and this book, which I've looked over and I've gone through, there's some real great pointers. And I think the audience not just can learn from what you've spoken about today, but can deep dive into the book and find out the how on so many points. So again, thank you so much for your time. Have a great day, and I'll see you later on.
Mark, thank you very much. It was a pleasure being on your show. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Mark. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening and watching, guys. I hope there were some real gems that you get inspired by and take action with. Within the description, I tried to mention everything that's been spoken about, but on a daily basis, I put out content to inspire and help others. To see more, please like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Search by the name Mark LaChance. Thank you very much again, and I hope you enjoy the journey.